For more on Trump's national emergency and all the Democrats entering the 2020 presidential race, let's bring in our panel. Joining us in the studio, Eleanor Clift. She was a political analyst for The Daily Beast. Welcome. Also, Rasheedah Thomas. She is the principal and co-founder of RC Communications. That is a public relations firm. And from Wilmington, Delaware, David Smith is the Washington, D.C. bureau chief for the British newspaper, The Guardian. And John Sitilides. He is a geopolitical strategist with Trilogy Advisors. I know you guys are all familiar with each other. Want to kind of jump right in. Eleanor, I'll start with you. Now, barring any tremendous shock, the House of Representatives is certainly expected to block Donald Trump's effort on the national emergency. Then it puts it in the Senate's court. Tell us what you think we can expect from the House, and really, could this be a litmus test for moving forward to seeing where powerful Republican senators are in terms of their support for Trump?
Well, you want to watch, first of all, how many Republicans sign on with the Democrats in the House. If it's just a handful, that's not a strong boost for the Democrats going forward. Now, it moves to the Senate. They have to bring it up. And there are 48 Democrats, include 2 independents. They only need 3 votes to actually
they need 4
votes.
And they have 3 now.
That's right. They have 3 votes, and the assumption is that there's probably at least 1 more out there. And so the resolution will be disapproved. The president will veto it. It's highly unlikely there would be a 2/3 supermajority in both chambers to override the president. So it's going to move to the courts. And the president, when he announced this declaration, said in rather a sing-songy way, you know, first it goes to the Ninth Circuit, and they reject it. Yeah, exactly. He's counting on the Supreme Court, which now has a 5-seat conservative majority out of the 9 justices. And frankly, I don't know what to expect from the court. I do think that if either way it goes, it will hang on Chief Justice John Roberts' decision. And this law has never been tested. It goes back to 1976. It was one of the post-Watergate reforms, and ironically, it was meant to rein in presidential power.
Exactly.
And no president since then has used it in any really controversial way. So, and what the president has done here is he's gone after funding, appropriations, which is the purview of the Congress. So it becomes sort of a constitutional confrontation.
Well, Eleanor, I want to pick up a little bit on that, because in the United States, there are basically 3 entities: legislative, the executive, and the judicial branches of the U.S. And Nancy Pelosi, the House Majority Leader, has been very critical of what Donald Trump is doing, saying that he is undermining what Congress is supposed to do. Does Congress have the authority to supersede this national emergency?
Well, they do with this vote, and Speaker Pelosi has called the vote, and they're voting on it probably now as we're sitting here talking about it. And then it will work its way, and if the president's veto prevails, it goes to the courts. And so you have some Republicans saying, well, it's just a symbolic vote anyway. It's going to be decided in the courts. And senators are saying, why should I vote to overdo this resolution when it will just get me in trouble with the president? And the president knows when somebody takes the opposite side from him, and then he's likely to intervene in a primary. And the Republicans are worried about, there are 25 of them, I think, who are up for re-election in 2020, and they're not afraid of Democrats. They're afraid of being challenged within their party from the right. And this is President Trump's party, and so this is all the dynamics that go underneath. So a lot of Republicans are not going to vote their conscience, so to speak. They're going to vote defensively. They don't want to get the president angry. They figure it's going to go to the courts anyway. So, you know, why walk the plank on this?
John, let's pick up on that, because the president issued a tweet, which he seems to love to do, on Monday, warning fellow Republicans against following the path of weak and ineffective border security. And he asked, and we have a quote here, why on earth would any Republican vote not to put up a wall or against border security? Please explain that to me. Do you believe that Trump is going to be successful in bypassing Congress?
Well, first of all, the president has been quite skilled in using social media to frame issues in his direction. He did this during the presidential campaign against 12.5 candidates. He's done it as president. And I think he understands that his voter base and many Americans are very much concerned about border control, about the American government's ability to maintain sovereignty over our territory and to determine who comes in and who doesn't come in based on our laws and the like. And he's framing it in a way that makes it very simple for voters in the states of those senators who he fears are getting wobbly, whether it's Senator Collins in Maine, Murkowski in Alaska. You have people like Mike Lee and Rand Paul who are more libertarian. They're taking a principled approach in favor of what they call a more constitutional dimension to this argument. But I think he's doing the best that he can. He's going to fight to the end. He'll probably lose in the Senate, but he'll prevail with the veto. And then, as Eleanor said, it'll go to the courts. And it's out of the political hands and it's in the judicial hands, as is properly the case where we have the rule of law.
Rasheedah, let's pick up on that, because a lot of Democrats are simply calling this a power grab. And one thing that we have heard from them is the Republicans howled quite a bit in 2014 when then U.S. President Barack Obama used national emergency, in essence, to postpone the deportation of a number of undocumented migrants. But now the situation's turned dramatically. What are your concerns about this? And do you see possibility of opening up to greater issues, such as gun control, for the next president coming in saying, well, if Trump can do this, we can do this?
Well, that's absolutely what Democrats are saying and thinking right now. And that's what they're telling their constituents, and that's what they will be telling voters between now and our election in 2020. I think this is going to be incredible fodder for the election and for debates coming up over the next 18 months. And yes, this does open it up for our next president, whoever that may be, that they may declare a national emergency on poverty, on gun control, on a number of different things. So yes, this is a very dangerous precedent for President Trump to set.
David, I see you out there shaking your head a bit. I want to get your thoughts on what Rasheedah just said, but also pick up on this bipartisan group of 58 former national security officials who issued a statement saying there's simply no factual basis for what Donald Trump is trying to do right now.
Indeed, and in the House debate today, some Democrats have been making that point again, that apprehensions at the border are significantly down on what they were 20 or so years ago. You know, there is no emergency here, only a manufactured crisis, and perhaps only a humanitarian emergency in terms of still families being separated at the border and living in very difficult conditions. Just to go back to some of the discussion, I think it really is extraordinary to see Republican senators in particular who, during the recent months, said that they were opposed to the president declaring a national emergency, and now it comes to the crunch. They're falling into line, and apparently the Republican leadership is working very hard to get those votes. It does appear once again to be a surrender of political and moral and in this instance constitutional principle, just once again for political expediency and showing loyalty to Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi today, the Democratic House Speaker, said in a speech, you know, our founders had great vision. They did not want a king. And this national emergency is a dangerous step towards some kind of monarchy-style approach. And indeed, there's some reporting today that Democrats on the 2020 campaign trail are being asked at town hall meetings, well, if you were president, what national emergency would you declare? So it's already seeping into that debate.
John, I want you to respond to that, but also I think he's talking a bit about Vice President Mike Pence calling in some GOP senators and basically cracking the whip, saying fall into line. Is that right? Are people being forced to do something they morally don't want to do?
It's absolutely right, and it's what every president does. You know, you whip votes from your party in order to prevail in a policy debate. And President Obama did this, and President Bush did this, and President Clinton did this, and of course President Trump is going to do this. To the point that the prior speaker made, I think also it's not just a matter of people being cowed or intimidated by President Trump. I think voters in a number of states around the country are very much concerned. There's a very real debate as to whether or not there's a crisis at the border, but a large number of Americans feel that way. They're making it felt to their senators, and senators are responding to their voters' concerns as well. So I think it's unfair to dismiss what people around the country are saying, and not just those of us who are distant from the border, with very different abstract concerns, not those of the people that are directly affected by the flows coming in from Central and South America.
I would suggest, though, that you're referring to large numbers of people are concerned about this. We just had the midterm elections, and the president brought out the immigration issues as his central theme, and the Republicans got creamed in the elections. So I think there are some people who are concerned. They often are people who have the least interaction with immigrants, and they're made to fear this abstract invader.
Eleanor,
So,
Rasheedah, I have to get you to pump the brakes for just a second.
Sure.
Hold this thought. We're going to pick up on where do we go in 2020, the presidential race. More of our conversation on that is going to be coming up right after this, so stay with us, everyone.